Hello everyone, we are here starting one more day of our warm-up for Game Jam Plus. And just reminding you all that registrations are open and this is going to happen on this weekend from 8th to 10th of October. Be with us and again, you're plus one. So right now we're going to have another panel, very special for us because it's with people that support us a lot and we are so thankful to them. So please come to the stage, Charlie and Mario from Uberstrategist. Hi,
Hello.
nice to see you here. Nice to be with you here. Um, what's happening with Charlie's camera? Charlie, can you hear
Charlie.
us?
Charlie.
Charlie. Oh,
Coming?
not sure what's happening. Uh, okay. I think her internet dropped. Oh no. Okay, Mary, it's just you and me now, but she's going to come back. I'm
She'll
pretty
come back.
sure.
She'll be back. She always comes back. She's
Yes.
tenacious. She's tenacious like that.
I'm pretty glad to hear that. So, Manu, what are you going to share with us today?
Yeah. I guess a little bit about us. So Uberstrategist started out as a PR agency in early 2014. I've been in the industry for about 25 years, which seems like a really long time when I say it like that, roughly half my life.
Well,
And I started out with creating my own website called wargamer.com, which I sold a few years later. And then I got into the video game industry full time, and I've worked in sales, marketing, business development, and PR. And so a few years later, I created my own company, and we started just myself and one other person for about 4 years. And now we're actually 17 people spread across 3 countries and 2 continents. And instead of just being a PR agency now, we work with all clients, from big clients like Atari all the way to indies. We work with board games, with comics, with lots of other areas that touch on video games. So it's not just video games. And our agency specializes, we still do PR, but we also do influencers, which is Charlie's domain. And then we also help with events and trade show support. And we also now offer community management and social media. So basically, almost the whole marketing mix that indies or even larger video game publishers and developers may need. So I just did a quick intro while you were recovering from the internet.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As soon as it went live, it was like, nah.
yeah, it happens. Would you like to introduce yourself, Charlie? Just
Yeah, of
make a
course.
brief.
Yeah, I'm Charlie, and I'm the Influencer Relations Manager at Uberstrategist. I've been probably in the industry for about 4 or 5 years, although I do look like I'm about 16. So, but believe it or not, I've been there. And I'm here to talk to you guys about influencers. Any questions you have, just give us a shout.
Yeah, the chat is going to be open. Please make the questions here, and we are going to make this interaction with you. We are here to answer your questions. But just to start the meeting, can you both tell me how was your way to start with the game industry? I mean, there are many people here in Brazil that comes from many different places. There are people from geography that goes to game industry. So how was it your way, and how it was focused on PR?
Charlie, you
You
want to
can.
start with how you got into the industry?
Yeah, of course. So I actually started out as a waitress and I was streaming on Twitch on the side to kind of get by. And then I sort of got to know people, started to go to various events, and then realized that the gaming industry was something I really wanted to work in and I was super passionate about it. And then I got an internship and kind of excelled from there and worked my way up. And here I am now.
And so I also kind of went in a little bit of a strange way. I've always loved games. I served in the U.S. Army for almost 5 years, and when I got out, I started a gaming website called wargamer.com. It was really just for me to find people to play turn-based military and strategy games with back in the day, early internet. But I always had a real job, if you will, because I never thought I could make enough money in gaming. It was always kind of a hobby on the side. And then my site started taking off, and I was able to sell it after a few years, having grown it. And I had been going to E3 for a number of years. And there I met with one of the publishers that is unfortunately no longer around at the time. And we just started talking, and I was actually trying to sell them advertising for my site. And they liked my pitch to them, and they were looking for a sales director and happened to be in the same hometown in Raleigh, North Carolina, where I was based. And so they invited me in for an interview, and we talked a little bit more, and they decided actually they'd rather have me on the PR side and also some marketing. And so they sent me around the country showing a game all over the US and Canada. And I was like, how hard can this be? I play games, and I like to talk to people. So it was like my two passions in one. And so that's how I made my switch full-time into the gaming industry. And from there, I held a few other jobs, basically just progressing until I started my own agency at the end of 2013.
So, really different things. And this is nice to hear because many people does not start in the gaming industry. They just come from here, from there. They just think, okay, this is not going to be business. This is not an industry actually. But here we are. Making events is something for our games. Making PR is something for our games, and so many things. You can be on the industry in so many ways, and you are proof of that. So, would like to discuss with us a little of your background. I mean, how it is on the backstage of making RP. How it is, how it is to look for
how the sausage
influencers.
is made, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Let's
mean,
start
it's,
for you.
it's interesting. It's funny, when I used to run wargamer.com, which is still out there now. I think Network N purchased them a few years ago, so it's still out there and they do a lot of really cool stuff. And I used to recruit volunteers to do game reviews, and you would think that would be pretty easy. Like, you get a free game and you write a review. And I found out that the length of the reviewers was not very long. Like, before people realized it's actually less effort if I just buy a full price game for, $40-$50 and just play it for fun, because a lot of work goes into writing a really high quality review of a game, for example. And so I think there's, as you were saying, there's tons of jobs in the gaming industry. My saying used to be like, there's janitors, there's accountants, there's marketers, there's like, if you have a skill set or you have a career interest and you're really passionate about games, there is probably a role for you in the gaming industry. And a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time, showcasing what you can do on your own. I mean, nowadays it's much easier. When I started, it was before social media, so it was a little bit harder to get reach. Now you can do things like streaming, but you have the opposite problem, and that feeds into kind of what PR and influencers do also, which is there's so much out there. Like, almost anybody can make a game now, because Unity is easy to get, Unreal Engine is easy to get, and so really now it becomes more of a challenge of standing out. Initially it was more of a, how do I even get known and how do I even break into the industry? Now it's like everybody's in the industry or around it, because all you need is sort of a Twitch account. But how do you become good at that? How do you do it enough so that it's a profession? And I think it all boils down to your passion, your willingness to learn, because you can learn any of these skills that you need, but you have to really be willing to do the hard work and dedicate to it. You can't just dabble in it, or you probably are not going to make it in this industry. Charlie, anything you'd add to that?
No, I totally agree. And they're both the industries just growing and growing as we go on. So it's only getting better for everyone.
Well, I see it. And yeah, this is something that since it's not here in Brazil, for saying our reality, it's not so common to find companies that works specifically with this. And as you said, it went from okay, there is no streaming, so it's hard, and now there is too many streamings, so it is hard. It's always hard. This is how industry works. Um, but well, you said in the beginning that you work with indie companies and indie studios. How is this important for the indie studios? Because we know that for Blizzard, for I don't know, for EA, this is something that they can afford. They can make it. Okay, we are going to have our community managers to take care of our games. But how is it for the indie companies? What's the importance for them? How is it made? What strategies is got to be used? Um, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, it's all about playing to your strength. Again, going back to passion. I mean, I've built a great team of people that the universal characteristic of everybody is they have a lot of passion for the industry and they want to be the best. And so sometimes it just takes that opportunity and being at the right place in the right time, or just persistency to show that everything you do, you're either going to do really well or not at all. And if I know tons of people that have gotten lucky breaks by just doing a great quality product, maybe for a long time, it didn't seem like it was going anywhere. And then suddenly it took off. Charlie, for example, she already had a great job before, she worked with me, and we met at an event and just talked. And, I immediately liked her. She had great skills, great personalities, great communication skills. And so almost a year later, I think it was about a year later, I think that we kind of started talking on social media, and I thought, I need to grow our influencer business. I'm tired of trying to do it by myself. I really need somebody that lives and breathes the space every day. And we started kind of almost at the same time talking about working together, and that just happened. And it's been a fantastic decision, at least on my end. She has to work with me, so it might be harder for her, but she's been a great addition to the team that's made a huge difference. So, as far as indies, I would say, working with partners, going back to playing to your strength. If you have PR skills and communication skills, and that is something that you're naturally good at, then by all means, do that yourself. But if you don't, find help, find people that are working with. It can be people, it could be freelancers or people that want to get into PR that have some of those skills. The same way we recruit a team to do development, find people that have the skills that you do not have in-house or that you're not at your best at. And we always say as a PR agent, like, we can't control the quality of the game. That's up to developer. But if we have a great product to work with, like anything else, a great product that's differentiated, that stands out, where every thing has attention to detail, that's a lot easier to sell, to market, to do PR on, and to have influencer engaged with, than if you have something that's kind of so-so and you can tell, it's one thing to not have the resources and you're limited. You're not going to make a AAA game with very little budget, but you can make a really amazing indie game and have it be the best that you can do. And that game is easier to, promote and sell and get other people's attention, because then people can see and go, oh, if they had some budget, they could probably do something even more amazing. And that's something that's interesting to investors, to publishers, to other people out there.
To jump on that, I think as well, like, social media is a big aspect, and indies should really use it. Like, I've seen loads, they're super, super engaging. They, like, you can see they want to communicate with their community and build it. And it's just a powerful tool out there for anyone.
Yeah, building a community. I mean, that's actually great. I think about Discord as well. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, because we've held a few clients with Discord servers too. But you have to have a community. Like, just having an audience through PR is not enough to sell games. You do need to have a community that loves and supports you and wants you to succeed and wants to look forward to your next game and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. And on the Discord topic, it's good that to have community in there, because they're involved with speaking to the devs. They're getting to know them a bit better. You get a lot more feedback as well. And maybe it's some things you haven't thought of, but then you think, oh, do you know what? That might make my game a bit better. So we could implement stuff like that. So it's like, it influences, or community in general help you guys as much as the indies help the community as well. It's all about collaboration, which I love.
Well, I was almost going to start to speak in muted. uh, yeah, this is very important. The indie industry is growing now, and this is something that people sometimes they have one person to make 10 tasks at once, and this is something that we know that can affect the process, and not every time they can make this part. This is really interesting to discuss. Another thing is that Charlotte is especially works with the influencers part. As you said before, the streamers are everywhere. About influencers, there are influencers on our team of the global. How it is to reach for them and to make a good partnership with them, and how it is to choose. Okay, it's better to make a partnership with this bigger influencer or the small influencer. How is it said? How I think I made too many questions on one, but please
Oh,
take
you're
your time to
fine.
answer.
It's cool. So, depending on what influencer would be beneficial, it all depends on the brand. So, if you've got huge budgets, for example, then it might make sense to just use one huge influencer and job done. But in my opinion, for the indies with the smaller budgets, it's always good to work with the influencers that have a smaller reach, because most of the time, more often than not, they're super engaging. Their conversions are really good as well. I'm not saying macro influencers, which are on their tier one tier, are necessarily bad to work with, but if you work with a lot of influencers that are very engaging all at once, you see a better reach. There's more conversions for your sales or wish lists and things like that. What did that answer your question or not?
Yes, you answered the question about influencers, and also let's consider, okay, this is a medium company. They already have a couple of games and they want to close a partnership with a bigger influencer. How is the process? How is it that you reach them? How is the negotiations? How does it work? And just to make it more like as a hint for people from companies here that are going to try to start looking for this.
Yeah, of course. So, depending on your game, you want to have a look for what influencers may suit your title. They should be playing similar titles. You want to make sure they're quite engaging, they're funny, and they're not sort of bad for your brand per se. And then you would outreach them. That normally their emails are listed on their social media accounts or their YouTube accounts, for example. But you can send them a nice friendly email, introduce yourself, and let them know what you would like from them. And from there, you start building that relationship. And if you were to work with them on a long term basis, you could also go down the ambassador route as well. And they become a sort of top person that would shout about your brand all the time. People know that this person is always playing these games from this company, for example. And then it's just all about relationship building from there, but you always have to make that official first connection, and you want to just make a first impression with them. Introduce yourself, tell them about yourself, boast about yourself, like don't be afraid, because the more information that you can show to the influencers, the more you show you want to get involved and even get to know the influencers, the better.
Yeah, it happens to be a process actually. This is something you say in design. Everything is process, and believe in the process. Believe in that part of the introduction is something important on the process. Is we sometimes think, okay, this introduction is just formalities. It's not. Um, and okay, those are very good hints. And I was asking about
I was going to
students.
add to that just real quick too. Is just remember
Please.
fundamentals. Um, think about this like a relationship. I think some people do make a mistake, and the first thing they do when they reach out is they immediately ask for something or want something. And if that was a stranger you're trying to build a friendship with, they'd be like, who the heck are you? Like, why? I mean, if obviously you need help, that's a different situation. But if you're just like, hey, can you give me that? I'm like, I don't know who you are. Why should I do that for you? And, especially the bigger and mid-sized streamers, they get a lot of inquiries. They get a lot of opportunities to do streaming only for financial compensation. And I think also more important, doing a little bit of research and looking at the channel. Like if and I've made this mistake myself. I reached out to an influencer that I thought, well, they might be interested in like some simulation games. And really all they did was Roblox. So I thought, well, that was too broad, but that's all they ever did. And they actually got mad at me and said, hey, like, do a little bit of your homework. And I get it. I was wasting their time. I was making them respond and things like that. So, know the people that you're reaching out to, that the product even makes sense for them based on what they like, if they're variety streamers and things like that. And then also don't make it just immediately about, hey, can you check this out for me? Whatever. Think about, is there anything that you can do reciprocally? Because if you sell your game and you say, this is a really cool game that's visual, and, I'll give you some keys for your community as well. That puts something in it for the streamers as well. It's not just about the streamer using their time. And like anything, the people that you're more likely to do things for are not the ones that are always asking you. It's like it's a quid pro quo, or a give and take kind of a thing, where the relationship works both ways. And this is really the same thing. It's all about fundamental, just relationship and friendship building.
Yeah, and yeah, this is so important because community. I studied a little about community management, and this is something that takes time. It takes time to make your community to believe in you. It takes time to make a solid base of them, and then if you have any issues, this solid base is going to hold for you. It's going to, okay, on the top things happening, but here we are defending, here we are talking, and the part of creating, the part of making this links with the community is so important, and not everyone thinks like this. Not everyone thinks, oh, okay, I should make this happen, I should make this trades, this give and take. And well, pretty nice. So we already have a couple of good questions on the chat, but before, I'm going to ask something. I was asking about studios, and now I'm going to ask about gamers. Many gamers on Game Jam Plus are people that are starting to work with games, are on their first experiences, and some of them make very very wonderful projects. I'm going to make an advertisement here, like Do Not Disturb. It's the Hollow Harper Studios started on Game Jam Plus. They made an amazing game, and now they're going to make it as an formal studio. So, what kind of hints do you have to give for studios like Hollow Harper and studios that starts on game jams, and how they can make these baby steps? And this, please choose who's going to answer first.
Yeah, it's like going to the gym, and the first time you go in there and you have no idea what you're doing, and then after a while you kind of all your favorite machines and all the settings. So this isn't really that different from any beginning of a journey. I would say when you're first starting out, when you have some validation that what you've created is a game jam, that it's good and there's a nugget in it, that that people are liking and responding to, and if you had budget and a bigger team and more time, you could really make this big. I think working with the media is very helpful. It doesn't have to be like everybody. For example, I was just thinking about Games Press. So Games Press is basically a free service that you can email, you can write your own press release. There's lots of people out there, lots of templates out there for how to reading other companies and other developers press releases helps you get an idea of what kind of information should go in there. We also, I think I did a workshop last year with Game Jam Plus about the difference between like media alerts and press releases and things like that. But that's something also we can help with, or a freelancer can. But sending out like a press release to Games Press, for example, or to maybe through Press Engine, or and getting at least the news out there about a game that you're working on, so you get some press pickup, which becomes third-party validation. Then you can sort of take those articles and say, hey, we've gotten some articles with certain editors, or if an editor picked up the news, you can then follow up, reach out to them directly. You can find their email on Twitter. We find a lot of people on social media or LinkedIn and say, hey, you wrote about this. Would you be interested in hearing about this game that we're working on? And just get some press coverage that way, because that then gives you fodder to go to assorted publishers. There is a friend of mine, Jay Powell, runs a company called the Powell Company, and he has a free guide of every publisher pretty much out there, and what kind of games and platforms they publish. So that would be another free resource where you can then go look in there. And Charlie's been kind of going through that for us to find potential PR clients for us. But everybody can get something out of that. You can find some of these companies, have a nice pitch deck and say, hey, we're working on this game. We're looking for funding. We're looking for resources, and find a publisher. And then the publisher can typically take over with funding, with growing the staff and the game, with marketing and promoting it. And so then it allows you to really focus on your creative idea and what you know. And every time you do that process, you will be better for it, and you will know more the next time. But those are probably some baby steps that I would do that really don't cost anything except time and effort and some skills that are self-learned. You don't have to have deep pockets for it, but it's amazing how many people neglect that step or don't do it. And those are the ones that, nobody hears about, versus, if you follow those steps, you could have a publisher and, have a career in gaming that you're actually getting paid to do.
Well, I just have to say. Charlie, would like to add something, just your personal hints to those chins, those baby chins. I'm going to call like this. I'm sorry, chins. Don't hate me.
No, it's totally fine. So just to bounce off what Mario said, like again, social media comes into it a lot. Just even if you build it from the ground up, post about your game every day on the same channel. Like, it doesn't hurt. It just takes a bit of time and effort, but it doesn't cost anything. And at the end of the day, you're hitting an audience, and you're going to continue to grow. And then when you do find a publisher, for example, you've already got that community there. It's already started for you because you've done the work prior to it. So just go keep growing from there.
Yeah, I would also say network. That's very important. There's IGDA chapters almost around the whole world in a lot of places. If you have one local to you or near you, a lot of them are doing virtual events these days, so it's actually easier to attend remotely. There's a lot of like-minded people and a lot of good. I know like Kate just, I think, did a presentation not too long ago. She was, has been involved with IGDA for a long time. There's lots of great mentors in those programs that can help you with contacts, with connections, with advice. If there's local, like here in the Raleigh area, we have a local, for example, an Unreal gathering of developers that make games based on Unreal. I think it's like once a month or so. There's supper clubs where people in the game industry gets together. We said earlier, going, once COVID becomes less of an issue, going to trade shows and events where you can, connect with other people that are like-minded and make friends and colleagues and stuff like that. That's not to be, undervalued, along with building your community. And a lot of times, like peer developer, like, when everybody's starting out, you can either get super competitive and say, hey, you know what, we want to kind of step on everybody's back and be the winner. But a much better approach, and most fellow developers, especially when they're starting out, are open to it, is to network and peer. We've seen it, for example, when people are doing Kickstarters, where it's like, hey, you're doing a non-competing Kickstarter at the same time that we're doing one to raise funds for our games, to put these features in. You have another game and we think it's pretty cool. Can we give each other a shout out? Just a simple example where all you have to do is reach out. Again, it's a win-win. You're offering to do something for them. You're asking them to do something for you, and it works out for everybody. And if they have a different community that's not aware of you, there you go. And again, it doesn't cost anything but just some time and effort, and so a little bit of a strategy. Like, you don't want to say, hey, what's going to stick against the wall, and what what can I do at the 11th hour? almost as important as making the game is also thinking about how am I going to let the world know about it. And you want to start thinking about that as you're making the game, because when the game's ready and you're like, okay, great, now the game's ready, that's way too late to start promoting the game.
Uh, Before you said, I was thinking about this. So many areas have this competition style of dealing with things, and I think the game dev community is pretty united in comparison. And also, this competition can be healthy. It can be okay. My studio is competing with your studio, but we do not hate each other. We do not try to throw sand on each other. I'm not sure if this is an expression where I live, but we use it in Brazil.
No sand kicking,
And
no.
yes, and making this network is pretty important. We here in Game Plus try to make these connections to happen. We have many interaction servers for people to share with each other, for the teams who are finalists to share ideas with each other. We believe in this connection. And personally, I think this is the best thing ever because you can know a lot of things, but there is also always things new to learn. There are things new to share. There's always a way to, how can I put it in words? There's always a way to improve knowledge, and
Yeah.
having a community to make this uh, helps you to grow a lot
Mhm.
from the first to the last project,
Yeah.
especially.
Well, I was going to say, you
So
see, with just Game Jam Plus is a great example of that. I was just watching the intro trailer, and the growth of the number of cities, the number of projects, the number of continents, and participants year over year. You haven't been doing this for really that long in terms of overall time, but the growth has been phenomenal. So it works. I mean, that's proof in the pudding right there that methodology works. And when people all have a common cause and are there to help each other and learn from each other. I will say that's probably one of the reasons I've worked outside the gaming industry. I've left the gaming industry for a little while, but I wouldn't want to work in any other field because there's such a wealth of knowledge. And if you're not, an a-hole, sorry, can I say that? If you're not a jerk and you're honest with people and you're fair with people, people want to help you and want to work with you. I've not seen so much generosity in very many other industries. And so, like we work with nonprofits because we enjoy it. It's our way of having something meaningful that we can give back and so forth. And you as a nonprofit, like what you guys are able to do with your, relatively modest budgets and how impressive that's been grown, that's, you bring all these people together and everybody wants to help each other. And sometimes you just have to be there and be willing to take it in, to ask questions and to figure out how can you help somebody else, and that opens the door. So I definitely think this is one of the best places to learn and have people support you, because there's a few gotchas, but everybody that's been doing this for a while will be able to navigate you through a lot of the common pitfalls so that you at least avoid those when you're getting started.
And everyone's happy to help as well.
Mhm.
Like that's the thing, because they're so passionate about everything. Everyone's just happy to help, and I love that.
yeah, this is something I used to say on the meetings with the organizers. This is a dream we all share. This is something that we all believe it have to happen. We we try to reach places that has smaller dev communities, and we get surprised when we find them. For example, Macedonia. I said on. I think this is the pronunciation on their language. Macedonia got almost 100 participants, and this is their first year. And
Awesome.
they said, "Oh, we used to make jams. We have about this number, but the jammers does not go to the industry. This is something we want to go." And many people from many countries are willing to go to the industry, are willing to reach this. And Game Plus is a way to make it. It's a way to give give a light for these places. Show them on the media. Show, okay, this place is making an amazing game. Please look at them. Look at those devs. Um, I think this is pretty nice to listen
I was going to say
your
something too to that, as you were sort of mentioning there. So we've been lucky to work on a couple games that have included this. And we've also talked to other developers that, without spoiling, as those are conversations in progress, but don't be afraid of embracing, your local culture, especially if it's atypical or unusual. Like, you don't need to make the next game like everything else. Like, we worked on a game called Raji, which was based very heavily on Hindi mythology and settings. We worked recently on a game called The Veil, which was for the visually impaired. So it had almost no graphics. It was all about hearing and combat being resolved that way and stuff. Those projects are so cool and so exciting. And you'll be surprised also, those projects actually sometimes have a better chance of getting the attention of a big press outlet. We've placed those in Hollywood Reporter, or had conversations with USA Today, or, a BBC or NPR or something like that, because there's a human interest story. Like, it's cool, it stands out, it's different. And it's somebody from an atypical, not to take anything away from American or Western European developers, because obviously we have a lot of clients there, but relatively speaking, it's easier to make games and get into the games industry in those countries and places because there's just more infrastructure, there's more networking, there's more peers. So all of that is a little bit easier. If you're in some place where that's really hard to break through. But if you make a game that draws on your culture or has something really unique and cool, there's no reason you can't get the word out, because people are ready for something kind of new and interesting. It doesn't always, not everybody wants the latest installment of yet another game that does the same thing as everybody else's. It's better to have something refreshing. So don't shy away from making something too globally acceptable. Do you, as they say, be yourself. Bring to the table what you know about, what you're passionate about, what makes your game rich, and then other people. It might not be 1 million people that will love that game, but maybe you'll find 10,000 people that will love that game, and that's your start to have a really great, passionate community. That's what I would recommend as well. It's all about standing out and being true to yourself.
Well, pretty nice. I'm out of words. That's it. Would you like to start answering the chat? Is there anything else you'd like to add before this?
No.
Let's go to the chat. So, Danilo asked, "How do you guys select the games you believe is good enough to work with?"
It's a funny. Yeah, it's a funny question, because we get a lot of developers that go like, "Well, play the game. Do you think it has market value? Do you have that?" One, it's not always our call to make, but we do play the games. We check out the games. A lot of times it's also the client. Like, if we like the client and we think with some help and some coaching, we can be successful with the game. That's probably the most important thing. Are they passionate about it? Can they support us with assets that will make the game look good, so that way we can be successful in presenting it to the press? Because we're competing with every other game out there. So, we have to make it stand out. So I don't know that we have a hard and fast rule. I think if we've turned projects down, it's been more about not being a fit with the client than the game itself. If the game is pretty good and the client is passionate about it and is doing the best they can, we're very likely to be willing to work with them on that. And if not us, sometimes maybe, different agencies are a better fit based on personality and different kinds of games. I definitely recommend people to shop around a little bit and figure out, just like publishers, not every publisher is going to want the same kind of game. You just have to kind of find the right partner. But the main thing is just don't be a jerk. If you're a jerk, that's our one non-negotiable, where we've been doing this too long. We just don't work with jerks. It's too hard. It's not fun. And if something goes wrong, it's all about finger pointing rather than going, okay, that didn't go great. Exactly. It's more about okay, let's make the best out of it. Let's learn from it, and let's be successful together. If we get that from our clients and they want to work collaboratively, then they're a good client for us. I can't speak to, there's probably hundreds of other agencies out there, if not more. They all have different standards for what they're looking for, but that's really ours. Do we think we can do a good job with the game?
Yeah, I agree. And like slightly on the influencer side, a little bit, like there's all, even if we don't personally like the game because maybe it's just not something like not a genre we enjoy, for example, that doesn't mean your game's bad. Like there's always an audience, no matter what your game is, no matter what the niche is, and our job effectively is to find that audience for you.
Couldn't have said that better. Yeah, that's excellent. Exactly. We're all gamers, but we all have different favorite type of games. But if we just said, okay, these 16 people, let's vote yay or nay, good game or not, that's ridiculous. I mean, chances are we will probably have people that like the game, and we do try to pair the teams working on the games with people that are excited and have expertise and experience with a genre or platform or something like that, because if you're excited about a game, you're going to do a better job presenting it. But yeah, there is an audience for everybody, just like Charlie said. That's probably the most important thing. Like, we're not the yardstick, it's your audience and your community. If they tell you it's a great game, then our opinion doesn't really matter, honestly.
Exactly.
Wow, this is the thing. I personally am the kind of person that loves games to pick up flowers, like Minecraft. I play Minecraft just to go looking for flowers and putting them on chests and never use them, but I have the flowers. So another question from Leo is, how do you see the Brazilian market in games?
Yeah,
I
so
think that okay, I'm here.
we were very lucky to have Abra Games work with us and select us. I think originally they used to just select a different PR agency potentially for every trade show, and as they're advocating for the Brazilian games industry as a whole, there's always different players coming in. And a few years ago, we were able to have a conversation and say, basically, look, I don't care if you pick us or not, but pick one agency and work with them at least like a year. And we were very lucky, and we got hired, and now we're doing our second year. So we work with over 140 studios from Brazil and the Brazilian games industry, and so we probably have more insight than most people. I think it's super fascinating. I've always personally, I don't say this to everybody all the time, but I have a deep respect for the Brazilian culture, the people, like everyone I've met from Brazil, and I'm sure you have grumpy, get off my lawn people too. But everybody always seems very upbeat, very happy, very optimistic compared to a lot of other cultures that I've worked with. And I just love that. And I think the biggest challenge or the biggest misconception might be that Brazil, historically was more of an outsourcing kind of place for the gaming industry. Like if you wanted art done, or you wanted this done, you would go to Brazil maybe for cheap labor. But now there's all this great original IP and AAA contributions that are coming out of Brazil. So Brazil is as interesting a market and an emerging market in the video game industry as anybody else. They have as much right to be there, and the growth and the titles that are coming out of that market are super exciting for us, because like I said, working with them all the time, it's like, that's really cool. And the results speak for themselves, because there's more and more press that's interested in stuff coming out of Brazil. Brazil Independent Games Festival keeps growing and doing well despite COVID, where they had to go digital. You guys are growing, so it's becoming a powerhouse in the global video game market, and anybody who's not paying attention, I think, is really being foolish about it.
I've seen the Brazilian market increase as well. It's not really gaming, but on the influencer side, I'm seeing a lot more influencers come up from Brazil, and it's just awesome to see.
My internet had a quick drop, but here I am again. Uh, Also, I'm going to complete this question of something very specific for Charlie. Have you checked on Brazil influencers, or do you have any opinion on how it happens here in Brazil?
Say that again. Sorry, I missed it. Cut out a little bit.
Uh, Here in Brazil, the influencers are still something that many people are trying to figure out how to work with. Some people have no strategy and just put them whatever they think. And I'd like to ask if you have an opinion about this, if you check it already, how it works, or If you have anything to share about this.
Yeah, so if you wanted to target the Brazilian influencers, so sometimes their language barrier is an issue. Like I won't lie about that. But as long as you try to understand and learn. So I've used Google Translate before to have a whole conversation and a sponsor and sign a sponsorship deal with a French influencer, for example. So if you're willing to do that, and that makes it so much better for the influencer. The influencer knows you're trying, they're happy as well. Like, it all comes down to just getting around the barriers that may come up with Brazilian influencers, as an example. And then I'd say more so, like, they're quite active, I see, on social media now as well. So there's a little community going. So maybe one influencer knows another Brazilian influencer that maybe you want them to play your game. So ask them as well. Influencers, yes, you want to work with them, but they can help you work with other influencers in the same space as well. So they can give you what you want and you can give them what they want, sort of thing.
I was going to say also, and you're also looking more for like maybe not even necessarily Brazilian influencer, but just sort of like if an indie wanted to work with influencers in general, like a little bit of a process roadmap or what thoughts to put into it to reach out to them. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Like Charlie, if you had very limited budget and you wanted to, reach how would you maybe find a few and have that conversation? And, how would that maybe kind of like I don't know, influencer matchmaking 101 kind of a short tutorial, if you can do that?
Yeah, so again, find the influencer that's right for your brand, that's right for your game. It doesn't matter if they're small. Like, if you've got a small budget, that's totally fine. Like, you can still get influencers on board. Like, smaller influencers tend to do a lot more for free as well if they see the passion behind it. Like, if you're really trying to communicate with them as well, so you could get hundreds of influencers to play your game with a very small budget if you're clever about it. And like I said before, using influencers to help you find other influencers that you may have been trying to contact, or that are in the same friendship group, then they all bring each other together. Influencers talk. It may be a really big space, but they talk about what deals they're getting through every other day and things like that. So if they can collaborate together and work together on certain things as well, that makes it more beneficial. If for some reason you can't seem to get hold of an influencer that you really, really want to work with, I've always recommend DMing them nicely, just introducing yourself, let you know that you've sent an email their way, and hopefully you could work together in the future, because maybe they haven't seen an email. But never, ever, ever, when you're approaching influencers, say if they are live streaming, never donate to them and ask them to be a part of a campaign. I've seen that done, and it ends in disaster. No matter how much you want to work with that influencer, there's a lot of different ways to go about it. And that's the same as well. Being in their chats and communicating with them, getting to know them is great. But if you just go in their chat and go, hey, do you want to promote this, and this for me? Whilst they're live, they're going to be like, no, this is kind of a jerk move. So, and they'll avoid you in the future. And then those influencers will tell other influencers again, because they talk. So then you sort of build up a bad reputation for yourself as well, which is something that you'd tend to avoid.
What I was gonna say, and with social media outreach that way, right? You can kind of screw that up too when you like spam a bunch of influencers. We've seen that as well. We're like, definitely. Oh, don't do that.
Like I have myself gone, I've added someone and said, hey, can you check your DM? Or hey, can you check your email? Just once, that's fine. If they don't see it, they don't reply to you, don't do it again, because then it'll be spammy. Don't comment on every social media post that they tweet out or they post on Instagram, because they'll just look at you and be like, no, and you'll end up getting blocked. Like that hasn't happened to me, thankfully, but I have seen it happen in the industry, and it's not because it is wrong, but some people just don't realize that that's a bad thing to do. So it's which is fine, but you just learn from it.
Yeah, and it goes back to do your homework,
Yeah.
build a credible relationship. Like it's just like you met somebody for coffee for the first time. Like, you wouldn't open up with, "Hey, this is what I want you to do for me." You would hopefully take a little time to get to know them and see if maybe there's something. Like when I do a networking event or something, I always listen first and try to figure out, is there someone I know in my network, or is there something I can help them with before I even dare ask for something myself? Because I don't know, that's just how I was raised or how I kind of learned it over time. And it's worked really well because I have people now and acquaintances that I can go back 20, 25 years and still call on them and say, "Hey, I don't ask for a lot of favors. Would you mind? Would this be possible for you to help me with this?" And I rarely get a no because I don't abuse it. So, don't be that person that goes, "Oh, I know you don't know me, but can you do this for me?" It's annoying it would be annoying to them if people did it to them.
Wow. I see. It's actually rude when they do it like this. You feel sort of pressed to make something for that person, and it's making this relationship to start with this uncomfortable situation is pretty bad. I haven't think of it yet, because I don't think as so many examples of this. But when you said, I could just think, okay, if I ever saw something like this, I would instantly block this person. I wouldn't think twice before. It's like, "Ooh." And the person might not be even with a bad thought. They might just be,
I
okay, I
mean,
think
we
this
have,
late war.
if you're on Instagram, I have like I have a bulldog and actually two now, and actually one is sleeping next to me right now on the floor. But I'll post
Oh,
pictures and I always get somebody going, "Oh, great content, let's collab." Or sometimes it's even just a
yeah.
stupid, like has nothing to do with the thing. And I'm like, why would I reach out to you and collaborate? And like you haven't taken any effort to even, or maybe my message would be something like kind of sad or a little more profound or something like that. And they're just like, "Oh, marketing opportunity, let's do that." I'm like, do your homework, do your job. Again, it all goes back to don't be a dick. I mean, sorry, that's as simple as it gets. Build
Yeah.
friendships, build relationships, healthy relationships, and then everybody in this industry will help you. And those people who can't figure that out, who burn bridges, who take advantage one way, they don't usually do so well long term in this industry, really in any industry, but definitely not in gaming.
Yeah, be nice. Say thank you and say
Doesn't
please,
cost anything,
and
right?
this is the basic thing of human relationships. It's so
Exactly.
basic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So next question is from Carol, and she asked if have you participated in any game jams?
I have not myself. We've promoted a few. So we've worked with Game Jam Plus. We've also worked with, I think, Train Jam in partnership with Able Gamers. That's one of the other nonprofits we work with that creates opportunities for gamers with disabilities through video games. So my coding days are a long, long, long way behind me. When I was like 12, I think I programmed some stuff in Logo, which I don't think that language might even exist anymore. But that was the last time I tried to make games for myself. I'd rather have skilled people make the games.
I also haven't participated in any game jams, but surprisingly, I know my C plus code. Like, I do know that. When COVID first hit, I was kind of like a bit bored. I was like, I don't want to sit around in the house all day, but kind of had to. So I self-taught myself a little bit of code, and I can make characters run. I can make them shoot. I can make them disappear as well and respawn. There's a few things, but no, I've never participated in actual game jams though. I'm not that good.
I used to participate as an artist. It's just I, is gyms are supposed to be fun. It's going to
Yeah,
stress me,
and
but
I mean,
Yeah.
I am super impressed by people that can do it. It's like it's just cool, do your And I have a degree in programming actually from a long time ago, but I don't use any of it anymore. But it's just cool to see when people can create something out of nothing, especially that entertains other people. So kudos. And back to our very early point, there is every job in this industry. We found our niche, and it doesn't. People always like when my mom tries to explain what I do, she's after 25 years, she still doesn't really know what I do for a living. It's like he does something with gaming. And whenever, if I'm on an airplane talking to somebody, it's usually either, oh, my nephew, son, cousin, niece are really into games, or they have this great idea for a game. Would you be able to help? I'm like, no, I don't do that. Or people tell me, oh, you play games for a living, which is kind of true sometimes, but really, we found our own niche. We help people sell and market and promote games and get the word out about games. That's our superpower within gaming. Other people are graphically talented. Other people know how to make AI. Other people know how to come up with a great narrative for a game. But there is a place for every single person, regardless of how strong or weak the skills are. Like, you just build on it. And the worst thing you can do is let yourself or other people get talked out of even giving it a try. Because if you don't even try, you're guaranteed to fail. That's the only guaranteed outcome will be that you'll never be successful. If you at least give it a try, you have no idea where it's going to end up.
That's a good point, because like even on Unity, so if there's a few things that I couldn't figure out, I could go onto the forums and ask for help, and there's always someone there that knew what to do. So it's just good to do that.
Yes, and this is the thing. Every time you try, you grow a little bit. It might be just
Exactly.
this one, but it is for further than you were before. So another question from Danilo is: what are your thoughts about how to decentralize the money from the AAA studios and publishers to the indie industry? I mean, indie companies, supporters, and studios.
That's a deep
$1
question.
million question.
There's a friend of mine, Larry Cooperman with Night Dive Studios, who would be great and would have a lot of opinion about this. I think some of this is already happening. We're talking with more and more relatively young publishers that started out small and that are clear about their identity and that are finding quite lucrative success in the industry by sticking to their guns and funding and promoting lower budget games. I've had these conversations in the past. In fact, I won't name the outlet, but a few years ago, I had a dinner with some editors from a top tier, one of the largest gaming magazines. And my gripe's always been like E3. The E3 awards come out before E3 even happens. And I'm like, how is that possible? Like, shouldn't the E3 awards be done, during the show from a greater committee and so forth? Like, if you already pre-select from the top companies, and those are really the only ones that have a shot at it, to me, that doesn't seem quite fair. And the logic used to be, and I was actually told this, that, well, AAA titles are going to have more budget and make better games. But I don't think that's true, or at least not true anymore. There's plenty of great indie games and there's plenty of AAA games that have not done so well, and I'm thinking back, like Limbo. I don't think Limbo probably cost a lot of money to make initially, but it's been a huge success. There are lots of games. There's lots of publishers out there that are making one great indie game after another. And I think, by having like the self-publishing platforms, we're having more and more conversations with clients that are developers that want to self-publish. It's not always, I want to find a publisher. And even if they want to go through a publisher, it's not always, I want to work with, EA or Activision. Like, I want to find a really good indie publisher that gets us. So I think that's already naturally happening right now. And if I look back over like 10 years ago, And when retail was so important, and when, you know, you really had a hard time getting into retail unless you were affiliated with a big AAA publisher, I think those times have changed. And I think there are so many more opportunities already for indie companies to be successful, and the money will follow. And, you know, again, it goes, as long as you're making good product and good quality and being honest with your community and building that community, I think you have just as much right and opportunity as some of these AAA guys that are kind of relying in a large degree on tried and proven things. They're not taking the big risks. The indie guys are taking the big risks. And, you know, you look at Devolver, you know, they came with a couple small things. Now they're one of the more successful publishers out there, and they're publishing a lot of really great indie titles and being very successful with that. So the road's already been pre-paved, as far as I'm concerned.
Just don't give up. That would be my advice. Do not give up. Keep persevering. Like, there's always going to be competition out there. You're always going to have to compete with someone, but that doesn't mean you can't come out on top. Just stick with it.
Yeah. And compete with yourself. Like, it doesn't really matter what everybody else is doing. Do the best you can. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's totally true. It goes back to, there's an audience for everybody and everything. And if you gave it your best shot, somebody, hopefully other than your mom, will like it, but there is an audience out there for it.
Flappy Birds approve. So I don't have much comment on this. This is something, indie games are growing so much. The hyper giant studios made Hades. It is an indie game, and it competed with the best of the year. I mean, it was on the top of the top. And this is something to think. If you are an indie developer, don't think, okay, but the competition is with the big fishes. Right, there is space for many fishes on the sea. Many kinds of fish. It's
Yeah, I mean, I
almost
think it goes
literal.
back a little bit to the risk. I mean, there's so many cool games that have been out there that have done really successful, that have huge, you know, cult followings, that started at small games and then they had ripple effect. You know, Among Us, for example. I mean, there's just, you know, so many, you know, and a lot of it, you know, I think if you're thinking about the triple A's, again, it goes to their risk tolerance. Like, they want mass market. They spend so much money making the games that they have to sell so many copies to recuperate. If you find your niche and you consistently do great quality work in that niche, that will grow. You know, look at like limited run games. You know, they do quite well with a wide range of, I would argue, very few games that are true, quote unquote, triple A mass market games. But I don't think they're hurting for money, and I don't think they're hurting for projects. And I think they're quite open to working with, you know, studios of all sizes, as long as you have a good product. You know, they don't, you know, if you don't spend 100 million to make a game, you don't have to sell, you know, millions of copies of the game for that to be a success. And I think that's how this will sort of prove out.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, amazing. So for our last question, I have from Ceci Honey. Ceci Honey is my great master of pixel art. She teaches me a lot. And how's the best way to deal with harsh or even offensive behavior from the public regarding a game, if or when that happens in, say, a community or a social media? I mean, how to deal with the haters?
Um,
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I was just going to say, don't feed the trolls is my one
Yeah.
advice. It's super tempting to fight back, to argue, and you lose that battle pretty much every time. It's probably, I would say, ignore. You know, if you need to block or ban somebody that's really clearly crossing it. But you know, yeah, exactly. Don't feed the trolls is the number. It's so hard, trust me, especially because people get mean. People make it a personal attack about you, and I've been called every name under the, you know, from people that don't even know me, don't even know the full circumstances. You know, so just trying to have a thick skin, maybe spend less time on social media. I know that's hard sometimes when that's your job. I personally pretty much am off all social media these days and let my team kind of deal with it, because I don't enjoy it anymore. I think it's become so toxic. You know, communicate, be honest, be transparent. and don't engage, because you're not going to win a fight or change somebody's mind on social media. Unfortunately, that's sad. I wish you could, but I've not seen it much. Charlie,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say exactly the same thing. And if it's going on in a community, such as a Discord, for example, get rid. So like ban them. You don't need them. If like maybe give them a chance, maybe dependent on what's gone on, but otherwise get them out of your community. You don't need them, and then you don't have to deal with them. Your community doesn't have to deal with them, and that's it.
And one thing that I would like to answer to is, this person was going to say that for you, for other person who was in your place, for a fake profile, if you made it to the team, the special person was going to say it anyway. Don't take too personal. Don't let it get to you. Don't let it uh, make you think you are not doing an amazing job, because you are doing. uh, Criticism can be constructive. It can be, okay, I didn't like this, but because of this, and you can make it better at this point. Some people just want to be destructive. They just want to say you are doing an awful job, and they don't say why. They don't say how can it get better. They don't say what they dislike about this. They just dislike, and that's it. And they would dislike if it was with another person, with another uh, with another company, with another game. Just don't let it get to you.
I mean, it's been shown, and I mean, right now what's going on, like, not to wade into politics or that too much, but like with Facebook right now, just talking about what they're being accused of. They've shown through algorithms that negativity and disagreement, feeds the engagement algorithm. So, if all these social media channels are sort of stacked to promote that and to hone in on that and to amplify that, what do you think is going to happen? So the best thing you can do is just choose not to participate. There's good ways to do it. The same thing goes for interviews with the press. If they start going in the direction that you don't want to, you're a human. You have human rights. Like, you're allowed to not participate in that conversation. And it's just like a fire. Like, the quicker you take the oxygen away from it, the quicker the fire dies. And people have a short attention span. So that is a nice thing. If you leave it be and you don't keep fanning the flames, it will die out, because some other shiny object will be a better target for them. You're not giving them the feedback they want, which is to argue with them. That's my only advice. Hope you're better at it than I am.
My father says something that is, do not clap your hands for the insane to dance. It's just don't put fuel on this. It's an expression that almost no one uses, even here in Brazil, but I think this is so smart. You don't make the music for them to dance. You don't feed them. And yeah, this is the best thing. And Chris Dixon, oh my God, he said, I hope my comments aren't in the same category as the trolls you speak. Because he made a joke that if he could guess our professions and ages, my name would be Kate. I would be 23, and I would be in high dresses. Thank you. My mother that made this. So Chris, no offense taken, and we saw this as a joke. And Ceci Honey said thank you. Well, you're welcome, Ceci. You're my master. You she I keep saying this because she helps me on every game jam I go. So
That's awesome.
yeah, she's an amazing artist. So Pedro asked something, and this is going to be our last question because we are, are running out of time. And what's the difference when when you contact a professional PR and makes it by your own? How big the studio need to be to worth the investment, and PR works for small in games? I
Yeah, no, I get the question. This is a great question, actually. I will send you money later. Thank you. No. I have this conversation a lot, so it's back to our earlier point. You know, you can build your own PR in-house. And a lot of times we work with an internal PR communications person, because if it's working well, it's collaborative. It's not like, oh, I have a PR firm now and they take care of everything. Some agencies may sell you that or even tell you that. I don't think that works very well. We always choose clients and work with clients where we can partner, because you know best what is cool about your game. You do the development. We can partner with you. We can tell you what are good stories and so forth. But if I had to, boil it down to respond directly to the question, I don't think there is a too small. I think it's a matter of budget. If you're completely bootstrapped and it's really, really small budget, we've had some indie packages where I don't want to get into dollar amounts right now, but it can be done. I think the biggest benefit is that if you work with a freelancer instead of doing it in-house, you get somebody that has some experience and has done it before, and their primary focus is PR. And hopefully they're pretty good, see what they've done before, ask some references, talk to some other clients as to what the experience was, and then you get sort of a full picture. If you work with an agency, like for example, working with us, I have 17 people across the UK, the US, and Canada. We work with clients from China and Russia all the way across Europe, Brazil, North and Latin America. So the nice thing is we have lots of expertise and we've probably seen just about everything. So you're not really just paying for one person, maybe a part-time salary, but they can do everything for you. But we can bring different people in to say, oh, for example, hey, Charlie, can you reach out to some influencers? Or, hey, Mario, you've worked with, you love strategy games, so you might have some special insight, or you might know somebody there. So you just get a diverse set of people. The other thing is you can scale it up and down, right? So if you work with an agency, if you hire somebody in-house, you make a commitment to that person. So when you're done with the game and you go back to the development, for a lot of companies, that's sort of a quiet PR time, unless you have multiple games ongoing. Like publishers will do this, where we just roll from game to game, but otherwise there's not much for them to do. Where with us, you can just hire us for 2 or 3 months to just launch a game or just get a game to early access, and then conserve your budget. And then we come back when you have a sequel or your next game or whatever else. So I think it gives you more flexibility, more diverse expertise, and spreads things around. And I think if you're making a game with some commercial ambitions, I would at least talk to some PR freelancers or PR agencies and have that conversation. Worst case, the answer is, hey, it's no, or you can't afford it. But that way, at least you can compare whether you're an in-house or your outsourced resource solution is going to be a better fit and get better results for you. And also ask, like, what can I expect? What's your statement of work? Like, what kind of results should I expect? A lot of agencies do not like being asked about deliverables and metrics and what should you expect. And if they're very evasive about that, that's probably an indicator that you just want to be careful.
Always shop around. That's always good advice too.
Yeah, unless you're thinking about us, then
of course, yeah, then we're the ones you should come to. Okay.
Yeah, but ask your peers also, like, what have they done and what worked out from what were the results. And if there's contacts, everybody has clients, and if they say they work with certain companies, don't just go to the clients they give you for referral. Reach out to somebody at that company and say, hey, marketing person or PR person, did you work with this agency? What was your experience like? Good or bad, they're going to be more than happy to tell you about the experience, and then you have an additional data point.
That's it. Thank you. So now it's my time to say thank you for coming to join us and give this amazing panel. Those are so many helpful hints. This is something new in Brazil. This is something companies are starting to care about and starting to make their communities, to make their PR. Oh, the dog. Hi. Oh.
He's our newest team member, so he's learning PR right now. But he's pretty good with making first impressions.
Yes, I'm pretty sure he is. I already had an amazing impression of him. Thank you. Thank you for the hints to the gymmers. Thank you for the hints to the studios. And we hope to have you with us more often. It's amazing to work with you guys. You are amazing. And Charlie, thank you so much for the hints of influencers. This is something that we in Brazil have to be more mature about it. And you gave so many helpful insights. And thank you all, and thanks to the new member. I think on the next panel he should have his own screen. But that's it. I think we're going to say goodbye now. So warm up didn't finish it yet. Hope to see you on the next talks, and hope to see you, Jamers, on this weekend. We have many venues around the world. Pick. You can actually pick the one you want to choose. So see you. Bye
Thank
bye.
you so
Bye,
much.
thank you so much.
Obrigado.
Obrigada.
Olá, manos e manos.
You are invited for the next edition of Game Jam Plus.
Quer criar o próximo grande jogo indie?
I'd like to invite my fellow flyover states and the rest of the world to come jam with us.
Mi nombre es Brian Hernández de Cartago, Costa Rica. Patos de Minas, Minas Gerais.
Calgary, Canada.
Goiás,
São Luís.
Iran,
Liga Sul de Minas.
Portugal,
Brasília. México. Salvador.
Macedonia,
Uberaba, Minas Gerais.
San José, Costa Rica.
Uberlândia.
La Paz, Bolívia.
Manaus, Amazonas.
United States Midwest.
Atlanta,
Slovenia.
Engenheiro Paulo Franchim.
Game Jam Plus? O que é Game Jam Plus?
En donde desarrolladores, músicos, artistas podrán crear su propio juego com um enfoque de negócios.
Participants from all around the world come together.
É o local onde suas ideias tomam forma.
Y me complace mucho invitarlos a este gran evento.
I feel thrilled and blessed to have such an opportunity to be a part of this.
And I want you to unlock this achievement too.
Que es un evento internacional que va a tomar lugar del 8 al 10 de octubre.
from October 8th to 10th.
Entre el 8 y el 10 de octubre.
Dias 8 ao dia 10 de outubro.
This October, from the 8th to the 10th.
Dia 8 ao dia 10 de outubro.
Quiero invitarlos a formar parte de esta gran comunidad internacional.
It's going to be an incredible opportunity to make some games, meet some amazing people.
Espero haber más personas de todo el mundo participando de este gran evento.
Hope to see you there.
Participa, be our plus one.
Would you be our plus one?
Visita наших plus 1. Be a plus 1.
Будете мой плюс один.
Be our plus one.
Be our plus 1.
Be our plus one.
Be our plus one.
Be our plus one.
Be our plus one.